5853, 0706 048 5853, or 0915 570 8347. You can send a WhatsApp message or SMS, depending on what is more convenient for you. And please do ensure that when you call in, that your comments are very clean and civil. We are live on YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel on High Voltage News. Like, comment, and share the video for others to be part of the conversation. So this morning we are going to be looking at a very top story that occurred yesterday, something that happened in Benin City, Edo State, where there's been a lot of political tension and about the gunmen attacking P2B and some other persons that were with him. That is what we'll be looking into this morning. But before we go into that, let's take the top stories on today's papers and see what is happening in Nigeria. All right, we'll start with the Punch newspaper. The major headline on the Punch on the page 2 of the Punch newspaper says Tinubu picks Disu for pre-2027 security boosts. DIG is to retire. Tinubu picks Disu for pre-2027 security boosts and DIGs to retire. And under that, we have the IGP Egbetokun resummoned to Villa and resigns over family issues. Disu era begins as MBA 19 DIGs, AIGs face retirement. All right, let me take that again. Disu era begins as MBA 19 DIGs, AIGs face retirement. Then 2027 polls in sight as new IG leads Tinubu's new anti-banditry war. All right, so that is on the page 2 of the Punch newspaper. All right, let's read what the Punch says. So the Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, on Tuesday resigned from office, paving the way for the appointment of Assistant Inspector General of Police, Tunji Disu, as the new police boss ahead of the 2027 general elections. Disu was promoted to the rank of AIG in March 2025, is expected to take over from Egbetokun, who was appointed by the president on June 19, 2023. So the IGs continue to stay in office sparked widespread controversy in 2024 after Egbetokun officially reached the mandatory retirement age of 60 on September 4. However, his stay in office was extended following the amendment to the Police Act. So furthermore, on the Punch says that speaking with one of their correspondents, the special advisor to the president on information and strategy, Bayo Onanuga, confirmed that Egbetokun resigned his appointment, citing family issues that require his undivided attention. He disclosed that the former IG submitted his resignation letter on Tuesday. And in his words, it says that the IG resigned in a letter today, citing family issues which require his undivided attention. All right, so this is the story we have on the resignation of the Inspector General of Police. But however, with all this, there are multiple presidency sources that says that Egbetokun was asked to step down during a meeting with President Bola Tinubu at the presidential villa. That was on Monday evening. He was summoned to the presidential villa, and sources say that he was asked, that was forced to resign. Although the Bayo Onanuga says that he said it has to do with family issues, that they need to attend to family, and that was the reason he resigned. So a senior official, there are so many different sources as reported on Punch that a senior official said that it was in that meeting with the president that he was asked to go. So He was asked to go. The IG's official vehicle was sighted at the forecourt of the presidential villa on Monday. All right, so this is what we have on the resignation of the IG of police and also the appointment of this to begin the new era for 2027. All right, so with all the security, citing all the current security challenges confronting the country Nigeria, and also even with what we are going to discuss today, with the attempts, the shooting that was done in Benin yesterday, it also reflects the insecurity going on in Nigeria. So with the appointment of this current person, we believe, or we hope that something is going to be different in the Nigerian police force. All right, moving on. Said on the Punch newspaper, we see oil revenue shakeup. States back Tinubu's executive order. Oil revenue shakeup. States backs Tinubu's executive order. All right, on the page 23 of the Punch newspaper. So we've talked about this oil revenue, the executive order that President Bola Tinubu gave, that all the revenues should be sent directly to the federation accounts. So the states are backing the executive order, while some persons are saying that the president does not have any right to give the order. A lot of persons have already come out to say that according to the constitution, the president has a right to do what he did. All right, so next we see recapitalization on the business news. Banks raise 4 trillion naira ahead of March deadline. On page 21 of the Punch newspaper, banks raise 4 trillion naira ahead of March deadline. And then we see Diri's COS cleared as Bayelsa deputy governor. You know, we lost the deputy governor of Bayelsa State, and he has a new someone has been cleared to fill in the gap. So Diri has been cleared to fill in the gap as the Bayelsa deputy governor. All right, you can read that up on the page 14 of the Punch newspaper. Okay, next we see 395 million naira for e-transmission out of INEC's 873 billion naira budget. Page 14 says 395 million naira for e-transmission of results out of INEC's 873 billion naira budget. Okay, and on page 4 and 5 of the Punch newspaper, we see Ogun woman takes own life after broken engagement. Ogun woman takes own life after broken engagement. Okay, MPC's modest rate court sends positive signal. OPS says MPC's modest rate court sends positive signal. Page 22 of the Punch newspaper. All right, let's take this one that says federal government slammed as medical tourism hits $550 million annually. Federal government slammed as medical tourism hits $550 million annually. And that is on the page 21 of the Punch newspaper. All right, let's see if we can take one more paper before we move into what we have for today. Okay, on the Vanguard newspaper, we see U.S. Congress recommends measures to end Christian persecution in Nigeria. That is on the page 5 of the Vanguard. U.S. Congress recommends measures to end Christian persecution in Nigeria. So some of these measures is that they are calling for legal reforms, improved policing, strengthening of criminal justice sector, and also they are seeking for repeal of the Sharia and blasphemy law. All right, this is on the front page of the Vanguard newspaper. So, and also they are demanding programs to allow self-defense for farmers. And at that, they want audit reports of effectiveness of aid support in Nigeria. Also, they are seeking Nigerians' divestment from Russian military, measures to counter Chinese influence, and then the US pressure on Sharia can cause tension in Nigeria. The Christian Association of Nigeria says that US pressure on Sharia law can cause a lot of tension in Nigeria. And also, federal government has replied the US Congress there is no policy on religious persecution. Take this again, that is on the Vanguard newspaper, about the US Congress, the recommendation that they have made to end Christian persecution in Nigeria. And let me take it again. Some of these recommendations is that they are calling for legal reforms. They are calling for improved policing. They are asking that the criminal justice sector be strengthened. And also they are seeking repeal of Sharia and the blasphemy law. They are demanding programs to allow self-defense for farmers. And they want the audit report of the effectiveness of the aid support that they are sending to Nigeria. And they are seeking Nigerians' divestment from Russian military and measures to counter Chinese influence. Okay, so I don't know, what do you have to say concerning these measures, the recommendation that what they are recommending to Nigeria in a way to end the Christian persecution? Do you think it's something that is realistic, that can be done? Like, already the Christian Association of Nigeria has already said that the pressure on the Sharia law is going to cause a lot of tension in the country. So with them asking for the repeal of Sharia and the blasphemy laws, what do you think that is really going to happen in the country? Because we already see some of the reports from Daily Trust. They're already saying that the US push to scrap the Sharia law is already sparking outrage. Yes, it's already sparking a lot of outrage, and we don't know how far it's going to be when they try to put more pressure on the federal government to scrap the Sharia law. But what do you have to say concerning this particular headline, and maybe for some of the other headlines? You can call us on 0706 048 5853 and 0915 570 8347. And you can also join us live on YouTube on High Voltage News. Subscribe, like, comment, and share the video for others to be part of the conversation. All right, so still on the Vanguard newspaper, let's take more headlines before we move back to the story that we have for today. Okay, so we have phone tapping charge. DSS can't try me over casual remarks on TV. El-Rufai tells courts, and he's seeking 2 billion naira damages. So, phone tapping charge, DSS can't try me over casual remarks on TV. El-Rufai tells courts, seeks 2 billion naira damages. That is on the page 9 of the Vanguard newspaper. All right, so on the page 8 of the Vanguard newspaper, we see Tinubu to opposition. Elections not won on social media. Tinubu to opposition. Elections not won on social media. And this is really true, because the elections are won on the polling units, and it's not about what we do. We saw what really happened in 2023 with all the social media campaign and all that, and the people are making agitation for a particular person. At the end of the 2023 election, we saw the results, and to many reports, it wasn't really what the people wanted. A lot of persons said that it wasn't what they voted for. The person in power was not who they voted for. So according to President Bola Tinubu, he said that elections are not won on social media. Elections are won at the polling units. All right, so next on the Vanguard, we see President accepts Ebetokun's resignation as IGP, appoints